Hello, Chris.
Hello,
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Just please wait for 5 minutes. Is okay?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ready, set. Just let, yeah, you can prepare.
Okay,
Let's
okay,
wait
I
for
think
maybe 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if you are ready, you can start.
So, um, hi everyone, welcome back to Wenshe. I'm your host Yating. Today we're gonna discuss a very practical topic: how to rethink life satisfaction and how to pursue a good time in the modern world. Today we're gonna invite a sociologist and a life expert, Chris, who is currently making his PhD in Shanghai University, and he is also the developer of a application which called Good Time. Let's welcome Chris to give us a brief introduction of himself and Good Time. So, Chris, would you like to introduce yourself a bit?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Yes, my name is Christian W. Schnepf. I'm born in Germany, currently doing my PhD in Shanghai University, while I'm living a nomadic life in Asia most of the time. And I'm conducting international research on life satisfaction. I developed the science of good times, which I'm going to tell more about it today. And based on this, I also developed the Good Time app, which is a life navigation system, basically assessing how good your life satisfaction currently is and suggesting improvements based on the science of good times.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us this, for joining our podcast. So, I like to ask you like a kind of like simple question. We all talk about good times or talk about life satisfaction, and for you, what is the definition of good time?
A good time is basically defined by having energy flowing. So having no resistance inside of yourself and being attracted towards a situation. So you enjoy basically who you are, where you are, with whom you are, what you do, and what you get. And if you are attracted to all of those aspects of life, eventually you would describe it as having a good time. The opposite would be a bad time, where you say, I like to escape from the moment, from the situation I'm in. And a neutral time doesn't equal a good time, is I'm okay where I am. It's not where I prefer to be, but it's not neither. I don't escape of this from this moment.
Mm, so, I mean, I remember that you mentioned like a good time. It doesn't mean that it's like a easy. Sometimes good time means like currently it can be hard, but in the future it might benefit for your life. But
Mhm.
and then bad time somehow is the opposite, right?
Yeah, no. So if you have a good time now, if you don't have a good time now, you simply don't have a good time. So
Okay.
what you did in that moment might not be enjoyable, and later you get a good time out of it. For example, if you work hard for a day and you really
Mm-hmm.
didn't enjoy that, but at the end of the day you accumulated so many resources, for example, some some reputation, or if it's also money, that it helps you for longer good times in the future. But a good time isn't measured on the potential that it has on the future, but more in the moment itself. So past is past, it doesn't exist anymore. The future is future. We don't know what's coming yet. And assuming that I'm having not a good time now, but later it brought me a good time, so I'm in retrospective say this was a good time, is actually a lie to ourselves. So a good time is a good time now. If it isn't, it isn't.
Okay, I just have a question. Currently I'm making my PhD, and somehow I suffered a lot by my not only my PhD study, the writing process, but also when I communicate with some colleagues. I mean, some like people in their senior level, and then somehow some people quite mean, and I would just say like some people is quite mean, and then somehow it can be like very toxic. But people always say that it's gonna be beneficial for your future, and then how do you define if it's good or if good time or it's bad time?
So that for this, I developed a graph diagram that I call the four playgrounds to illustrate that simply. So you have an objective. In that case, you want to maximize your good time. So for as good as possible in the moment, but also for as long as possible in the moment. And if this is the goal, you can ask yourself, if I'm doing something right now, for example, spending time with those people who are mean to you, does it give me a good time in the moment? If the answer is yes, then okay, goal achieved for that moment. If the answer is no, then no, simply it's not a good time for that moment. However, then the question, what effect does it have on the future? And if you say I'm having a bad time now and a bad time in the future, that's something you definitely want to avoid. If you're having a good time now and a good time in the future, that's definitely something you're aiming for. And here and there, we're making some compromises. And this needs to be calculated and experimented along the way for a longer time, where you can ask yourself, or where you can measure actually with the metric I developed and the app, whether you had a good time in the moment, but long term it damaged you. For example, you spend time with your friends and just hanging out, and it's a perfect time, but you aren't productive at all. So if you do this consistently, then perhaps you lack resources in the future that would bring you a good time. And the opposite is what you just described. You're spending time with people who are mean to you, which gives you a bad time in the moment. But is it really a good time in the future? Does it really end up there? And usually this is not the case, except if you're in the growth zone. If you're in the growth zone, then you're saying it's a little bit uncomfortable. However, I can get something out of it that lets me grow. Because when I grew and I'm stronger afterwards, then I'm capable to create more good times in the future. So if someone is mean to you and you know your future environment where you're going to live, you need to be a little bit more assertive. And you are not assertive because you never learned it. You have never been challenged to be that. Then perhaps being confronted with some people who challenge you help you to create the skill of being more assertive. But if you don't create that skill and you might not even need it, then there is no win for the future. So asking yourself, how does my ideal future look like? And is it beneficial for me to be tougher on certain things, or is it unnecessary? Because if you're in a loving environment where every one of your colleagues just says, sometimes what you're doing is not really helpful for us. However, I'm here to help you that you can improve on that. You would get the same skill out of it. You would also improve in getting better without suffering in the very moment. So someone just saying, like, you're mean, you're mean. When someone is mean and is not supporting you and just pulling you down, I'm not sure if this is helpful.
Yeah, it sounds quite insightful. So what I understand is like you have to be very, honest and for yourself, and then you know what you need. And but basically, it's actually hard for many people to know what they really need, what they really want. So it can be actually at skills that people need to train for this, right?
Oh, you could call it a skill to train yourself understanding what you need. And what you want is another pair of shoes. So understanding what you need is a different thing than understanding what you want. And both can be trained. Yeah. One thing, the thing you want is something, it requires creativity. So basically looking around and getting creative, like what is attractive to me? What is more attractive to me than something else? That's something you can train over time, or with the system we developed, you would also see that what you're more attracted to compared to something else. When it comes to what you need, that's a different topic. I mean, you need to put yourself into situations where you understand, I am fine without anything, and I have confidence inside of myself, which would lean to the good time science of good times, where it's around energy flow again.
So you think like what you need is actually another different situation that people you have to put people in this situation, and then the person really have to think what they need. For example, okay, I still want to make like a PhD or the working academia as a case. Some people, they working in academia, they don't. They just work academia because they were trained like this, make their master, make their PhD, and then
Yes.
get a job like in academia. And many, because you live in China, I think you probably know that many people know that it's not a happy job, working in academia. It's quite miserable. You have to be really working hard to get publications, and you have to, have some dinners or drink a lot with these, people in the very senior positions, and then you have to make these people happy, and then you get the opportunities to for your publications, and then actually many of friends, they're not happy at all, and then they just what can I say, like they get very low paid job compared with what they do like daily for their job, but they just think, okay, that is my life, I should do this. And then they said that they know that they are kind of like brainwashed by this. You are contributing to the science, and you contributing to creating knowledge, but they know, no, we are just paper machine. It's kind of like this dilemma. So for you, what would you explain for this situation? If they want to change their life?
I think starting with getting clarity on what you need is quite helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your goal? This is always the most important. What am I here to seek? Why am I here? So what's the purpose behind of that? And at the end, I mean, the bottom of the bottom is you want to maximize your good times. However, in order to have a good time, you need some things. For example, an emotional need like acknowledgement. So many of us do things that we believe if we do them, we get the acknowledgement. Most of the time, the acknowledgement from the parents that we seek. However, if you get clarity about it, that say, I need acknowledgement. That's why I'm doing all of this. It opens another door. It opens a new level of opportunities, because now you can say, if it's acknowledgement that I need and that I want, then I can look around for different ways to get my need met. So do I need to make a PhD to get acknowledgement, or can I do something else that gives me the same without the suffering? And the same when it comes to acknowledgement is also a question, do I actually need it? It's per se, do I really need acknowledgement to survive and live a good life? And these are questions most people never ask themselves, but I believe are really, really, really worth thinking about. Why am I doing what I'm doing? I can give you a personal example when it comes to PhD. I don't need a PhD, and I'm aware of that. It's a want. It's a door opener. Being called doctor just makes it easier to get the message across, even though I can introduce it to people without a title behind. People are still listening. But sometimes it's just easier to open a door when you get introduced as a doctor. That's a nice side effect. I don't really care about it. Another side effect, which I wanted, is not a side effect. I wanted to conduct proper research and wanted to have a little bit of structure. So being in a university helps me to do that structured. However, if the university is not playing along, I can still do it alone. I don't need the university. And I'm crystal clear about those needs. So once I got asked or challenged by my professor if I want to change the research topic, I could firmly say no. I have no interest in anything else. I'm here because I'm having a question. I want to get this question answered. And the question I want to answer because I want to impact lives. I want to maximize good times for others, and I want to understand how that works. And the university itself is a mean to an end. It's a need. It's not even a need. It's an option to do it that way. And if this option is not serving me, I do it another way. And understanding that allowed me to negotiate also and design my study conditions in a way that I'm saying I'm willing to do that to that extent. And if I have to give more, is it worth the price or is it not worth the price? And that lets me negotiate. So I wouldn't go to academia to do a work that I don't believe in. And I even see that it's not contributing to science. I would really ask myself, what do I want in life? And is this the best way to get there?
Yeah, this is quite excellent. So you have some questions?
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Thank you for making today's discussion. Actually,
Yes.
the topic is about the science of good times. This is your research. I'm
Yes.
very interested in your research. I agree with you. Everyone wants to have maximized the good time, but how can we have good time? This is a big challenge. I think everyone has some idea about good time. So I want to understand the difference between your research and the ordinary people's understanding about good time. What's the difference? Okay, and this is first question. And the second question, can you give us more details about your guidance? So how can we make good time?
Okay, maybe you asked me the second question after I answered the first question, that I don't forget it. How do most people define a good time? It starts already with a lack of clarity, how people define a good time for themselves. Oftentimes, it's defined as some momentary pleasure. So saying, let's go to a party and have a good time. And that ends in the very moment, which is partly accurate because a good time takes place in the present. Good times, however, the plural is considered as a long-term period, or a period where people say, these were good times where we are living in. So in the definition, yeah, that was a challenge for myself as well to define this. And that's where I rooted to biology eventually, where a good time is, as I introduced already, is something you're attracted to. So a good time is something you feel, I enjoy being here. And that is something you're pulled towards. Humans have two drivers, being driven by fear, so going away from something, or being attracted by something else that is aspiring to go to. And so I'm walking towards something. So whether I'm walking away from something or walking towards something. And a good time is always something I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be movement where I'm saying I'm walking towards it, like because I'm not here yet. But I can also say where I am right now is attractive for me to be. If I had all the choices, I enjoy this very moment. So that's a good time. From a biological perspective, this comes from a very simple mechanism, actually from physics, that energy needs to flow in a closed system. So as a human, we are barely just a vessel of energy flow, and like any other animal. And energy needs to flow freely, and every time energy is blocked, it needs to be unblocked in order to flow again. So as nature can't expect from any animal to reason around, is my energy blocked or do I need to do something? Nature installed a very, very simple principle. You feel really bad about if your energy is blocked. So you're mobilized to change it instantly, to unblock basically those blockages. And you feel really good about when your energy is flowing freely. The ultimate energy flow feeling is usually described as love because there's literally no blockage and just pure attraction, no resistance. I'm just attracted towards someone or something or a situation I'm in. And that is pure flow, which is the ultimate experience of a good time, basically.
Mm. Okay, you want to answer another question? Okay, go ahead, please.
I want to respond. Interesting. According to your description about good time, it seems it's similar to the philosophy of Taoism. I'm not sure if you have idea about the Taoism. You have lived in China because you said that when people feel energy flows freely, then the people have good time. So for me, it's really similar to Chinese philosophy of Taoism.
Mhm.
How do you think about this?
Perhaps, yeah. It's no surprise. It's no
Yeah, yeah.
surprise. I mean, even though I coined it with the label of good times, I didn't invent the principle, obviously. The principle comes from biology, and even before organisms existed, it comes from physics. And therefore, it's no surprise that any culture, and actually, I did some research in different philosophies and cultures, it's basically always the same. We all pursue good times, and
Mm,
the struggle of life and all principles, all wisdoms are referring towards a way to free up energy.
yeah.
It is about being having no resistance, letting go. Yin Yang has a good principle on this, pressure and release, and all of those philosophies are basically saying the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. I feel it's similar. I think the principle of Taoism is similar to your scientific research. But the problem for Taoism, I mean, this is also my criticism toward Taoism. It's not a science. It's not modern science,
Mhm.
and it's very complicated. And there is no measure. There is no measure, no to for your happiness and for good time. I think
Mhm.
your research is different from the ancient philosophy of Taoism.
Mhm.
Your research is about the science. So
Mhm.
can you please give us more details about your good time philosophy? I think it
Yes,
must be scientific, it must be detailed, it must be measurable. This is my understanding.
yes.
Yeah. Could you please give us more details?
Yes, of course. And I totally agree with that. That was also a struggle I found before I conducted this proper research, that a lot of wisdom are there that point into this direction, but it's so abstract. It's nothing tangible. It still feels like it's an opinion, and it's nothing we can really agree on. So after I clarified that good times is that all we pursue, I was wondering what factors are leading towards it. Is it really a certain philosophy? Is it really a certain principle? And how can we make sure that certain principles are leading to a good time? Because it's something abstract. It's nothing really have that has been defined. So I thought, okay, let's look for the factors. However, we need to measure it. And I found that there's no reliable metric out there existing that is measuring good times. Of course, we have the happiness index and a couple of so-called happiness metrics. However, they are all based on factor assumption. We assume you need a certain amount of money to be fulfilled. We assume that you need social security to be fulfilled. So we don't measure your fulfillment, we measure the factor we assume is linked to fulfillment. And that has a lack that makes it endless. And I even talked to someone who was involved in the creation of the happiness index, who said, "Oh, we recently found that drugs are also an important factor, so we need to add this as well." I think like this is endless. We're not going to end up anywhere. We can assume any factor plays a role, but we shouldn't consider factors in measurement. We should measure and then see what factor has an effect on improvements, or yeah, the opposite. So the good time, to measure good times, I started with a very simple principle that good times takes place in the moment. So I'm having a good time now, period. Not in the past, not in the future. I'm having a good time now. And I can measure from moment to moment to moment to moment. So say I have a perfect day and call this day I had 100% good time, and I have another day which was 100% bad time. Then 2 days next to each other, I had a ratio of 50% good times. And the goal would be to maximize this ratio. So therefore, the metric is called the good time ratio, GTR, where we calculate firstly the ratio of good times versus non-perceived good times. So in order to measure good times now, kind of the second question, we had to found it on the principle that people are attracted towards something or walking away from something. So how to define a good time? That's what I just did before. Now we measure situations people are attracted to be in. And eventually we founded it on the physics law where energy is flowing. So I could tell from a sociological perspective that life takes place in 5 life areas. There's an individual, there are other individuals, it's usually society, family, whatever, so other individuals, collective. Then there are actions where people can do. There are obtainments that people can receive from the outside. And there is the habitat, the environment where all the experiences unfold. And we found that all of those 5 areas, people can actually tell whether they are attracted to or repelled from it. So there is no more area, and people can tell I like who I am or I dislike who I am. I'm feeling attracted to being myself or I'm feeling a certain aversion towards it. And the same takes place for I'm feeling attracted to the people in my environment, to spend time with them or not. I'm feeling attracted to the actions I'm doing, my work, my hobbies, whatever it is, and also the things I'm getting. Am I fulfilled with the obtainments I'm getting, which can be money, for example. It can be also acknowledgement. It can be attention. Um, and eventually also, am I attracted to being at that place I am? If you take a look isolatedly just at the room you're sitting in today, do you feel attracted to being in that room if there wasn't an event today? And if not, how can the room be improved that you say, I like to be here? It's attractive to be in this room. So in other words, the environment contributes to your energy flow. And we can literally tell energy flow because you're moving towards. It's mobilizing your whole organism to move. Energy is flowing to go towards it or get out of it the moment there's no need for it anymore. And with that principle, we measure throughout 5 life areas. Where it became a little bit more complicated, however, is the area of self, the most important area. So based on my current progress in the research, all the 4 areas, except of the self, only serve the energy flow in the self. So you as the individual, the player in your life, you need to function. Your organism needs to function, to flow with all the energy and needs to be able to move around. And if this is blocked inside of you, we are triggered to change it instantly. So we look for what can we eat to gain more energy. We look for how can I move to loosen all the blockages inside of me. With whom can I spend my time to be empowered to do certain things, to move more. And where can I be that frees up my blockages and I'm feeling more empowered to get to having access to resources, or it looks attractive. So the question for where does energy flow in the body ideally could be answered by measuring it, but we don't have enough medical systems yet in place that can measure a holistic energy flow. I mean, medical equipment usually detects when you're sick, and sickness is a result out of ongoing energy blockages inside of you. So it's already basically too late. When you're sick, and you measure I'm sick, it's already too late. Energy is already blocked for too long. But we don't need a measurement, a medical equipment to tell whether I'm going to be sick, because I can just feel inside of myself, is the energy flowing? In order to do that, we measure through 4 components at that moment. Perhaps that will be more or less, but for now we could pinpoint 4 components. The one is every culture agrees to that we have a body. So part of the self is physical body. Every culture agrees to there is something like a mind. We have our brain. Every culture agrees to there is something else in between, something between mind and body. Some call it soul, some call it spirit. And as we're like a battery, we also need to be charged. So we have a total energy level. That energy level is something special in those 4 components. Imagine you're a machine and you're fully charged. If you're not fully charged, you're probably not as running as well as you could. But let's consider you are fully charged. and you're still not running fully as smoothly as you could, then this is not a problem of your energy level. It's a problem of the distribution, how your veins are functioning. Is there some friction? So basically, this friction takes place through this three components of mind, body, and soul, which is difficult to measure the soul part. However, we can feel it by just asking the following three questions. How attracted are you, or how much do you like your level of self-acceptance? This is your mind. If you don't accept yourself, that means it's a mental concept where you're challenging your inner flow yourself. Your mind is interfering with your flow and says, stop here. This is not good, etc. So if you say, I'm 100% accepting myself, I even love myself, it's great. You're increasing drastically the chances of free flow inside of you. The second aspect is how comfortable are you in your body? And in between, we measured two aspects as physical health and bodily comfort, which we removed physical health now, as I just described. Physical health is a result out of energy blockages or energy flow. So we just ask, how comfortable are you in your body? And this question can be answered with, I feel healthy. However, I gained a little bit weight. If you're not feeling comfortable with having gained weight, that means you're causing damage in that very moment. Somewhere it's blocked. You can't use it. So physical comfort, bodily comfort. And the last with the soul, it's a tricky one. However, we found we can assess it quite well by asking, how much inner peace do you have? So how much do you love the level of inner peace? And inner peace is not the opposite of stress. You can say, I'm equipped and I'm ready to take action, like a martial art master. He says, I'm completely ready to punch. However, I'm completely in peace while I'm doing this. And that's the inner peace. So I'm not having basically any value conflict inside of myself. And by measuring those four components, we assess the self-assessment, the self area of the life, and then eventually asking all the other areas, seeing how long each area was paid attention to. So how much time did I spend with this person? How much time did I spend in this room, etc. And calculating based on this the total level of attraction and good time and non-good times.
Thank you. Thank you for your explanation. I think now I'm more interested in your science of good time. I think after the conversation, I think I will approach you to know more details about your research because I want to improve my life. I want to pursue happiness. I think this is everybody's motivation, desire.
Yes, but let me briefly interfere here. That's a trap to pursue happiness. It is something I could sort out very, very early in my research. It is not about happiness, because happiness is one emotion that is attractive to be in. But we don't want to be running around with a big smile and happy all the time, because sometimes we just want to be curious. Sometimes we want to be inspired. Sometimes we want to have challenges where we yet feel like I can give all I have and my energy is flowing. So imagine a mountain climber climbing up with a big smile and just being happy. He's probably very distracted. And this is therefore not the solution to focus on, I want to maximize my happiness. You would miss out on serious and yet very interesting conversations that you are attracted to have. And therefore, therefore why we say we measure good times. We don't measure happiness. We measure good time, and happiness can be a good time. Curiosity can be too.
Okay, yeah, good. Thank you for your clarification. Actually, I seen your website. Actually, I'm also very interested in your personal life. You said you were very successful when you were 20s, but then you had the question. Maybe you have some dissatisfaction or something like that. That's why you research the science of good time. Probably you can give us more details about your motivation of researching good time.
Yeah, I had a couple of moments in my life where that contributed to pursuing more of this research. One part was what you pointed out when I was early 20s, 2021, and was from a societal perspective successful. I had money, I had a company, I had good grades, I traveled every week, had acknowledgement, I had friends, good shape. All of the things were checkmarked. And yet I felt really, really empty, increasingly empty. I did not feel that this is fulfilling at all. It was it was so far that I said, it's not even luck that I'm here, that I got those results. It's just based on the things I'm doing. It's a very, very straightforward approach. I want to have I want to have more acknowledgement, so I'm presenting some stuff. I want to be in a good shape, so I pay attention to food and movements. It was predictable. So I knew where the journey is going. I could tell I just this is a system just to do more of it, and this is growing. But I was 20 and average life expectancy was 80. A doctor told me as healthy as I am, I can expect 100. I said, okay, that's another 80 years in front of me doing the same thing. And the same thing is not leading to more fulfillment because it's already not fulfilling. So it brought me into a crisis where I questioned the point of being alive and was even wondering why don't I just end it now? I mean, I'm just waiting until I'm dying anyway. So why waiting 80 years? However, it wasn't bad. That's why we also can clearly differentiate, and we have these experiences over again with people who are at similar points. Actually, the majority of people nowadays, especially in Germany, I can't say the majority, but I think Germany is a great example of a comfortable country where people are not suffering, yet they don't have a good life. It is absence of good times, but also absence of bad times. And that is, yeah, you would ask people, and I did this, I don't have a statistic on this point, but I surely asked 500 people in Germany, do you like your job? People say it's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's okay. So for me, it was back then this, it's okay. It's not bad, but neither attractive to do more of it. So for me, slowly things fell apart because I didn't see a purpose in doing more of it. And I questioned what's the point of life. And long story short, I decided to keep on living, but told myself it got to be different. I got to do it differently. So what's out there? How can I live my life that is more fulfilling, more satisfying? And my society couldn't tell me the answer. My society couldn't tell me if you do this, then you're definitely more happy. Because I asked people who were a little bit more ahead in my journey still and said, okay, I'm now married, I'm having kids, I'm having a house. And yet they felt very dissatisfied at many points. They said, yeah, a child is a child, or yeah, it's marriage. It's like, what is this? What is the point of this? So for me, I started traveling extensively. Before I get there, just briefly, I tried it a second time bigger. So I had my own team of 75 people eventually, and it was yeah, I chatted constantly. I didn't even stay in my room in my apartment for more than one night a week because it was just chatting all the time. And it wasn't fulfilling either. So at one point, I decided I'm changing it drastically and started traveling much more and interviewing not just people who had a lot of money, but also people who didn't have any, children, elderly, but those who seemed to have something that I felt like this is attractive. Now I can tell it was obvious for me to go in this direction. It attracted me, so it gave me a good time. But then I was just more or less all over the place and wondering, oh, this is interesting. Why do they do it that way? But that seems to be good. So I'm asking those people, what are you doing in your life? How fulfilled are you? Do you like what you're doing? My questions were all over the place, but I could at least ask quite some curious questions that added up. Were a puzzle piece. They were a puzzle piece, and eventually I found the 5 life areas and could ask more precise questions. And yeah, that's what I did for a while, and also directed my own purpose in a new direction. I stopped my previous career where I was quite successful in, and I asked myself, what would I want to do in my life if I don't have to do anything? So I brought myself into a position where I didn't have to think, I didn't have to be concerned for a couple of months. It wasn't even a year, it was for a couple of months, I don't have to think about money. And I just do whatever I want. And I pretended to my mind that this can go on forever. So being in that situation with complete absence of, of must-haves, of struggles, let me become very calm and let me just try out all the things that I thought makes a good time. And with that peace, I was asking myself eventually, what would I keep doing then if I don't need to do anything anymore? And it was going hand in hand with the question I asked myself, if I had a daughter and I see my daughter growing up with joy like a child being excited about the day. And I witness how she grows up with this. And one day she's 20, 25, and she comes home, visits me as a father, and says, when I'm asking her, how is life going? And she just says, well, it's okay. That's just life. It's work. So, and I'm seeing how she doesn't have that spark anymore that she had as a child. For me, that would be tragic. So for me, it became clear to say, my life mission is to help people to create a life they truly love living. It's just not negotiable. It's just, I truly love it. And that set me up for this direction where I also was working on, yeah, on myself. So how can I optimize my life that it's just flowing smoothly? And this went on, and eventually I got asked to be a coach, and I coached for a long time. And I thought like, okay, how can we scale this up? How can we make more impact? How can we be more precise? And that eventually led me to the creation of the good time ratio and the science of good times.
Wow, wonderful.
Yeah, that's it's really impressive. I really like your story and your motivation for to help people to make impact for people to have a good life. And I think it's somehow in our, we can say like modern society, people or human are facing a very serious mental health issue or, the problem of being exist. I mean, for example, like, for in China, in my generation, the people who were born after 1990s and the 2000s, what we can call like some the people close to Gen Z generation, and then
Mm.
we always have some like the certain mental problem. I mean, even though like these two generations are considered that living in a rather good life, that not compared with their parents' generation, they
Yeah.
were going, they have like kind of stable life. They didn't experience like some great family or the political crisis in China, but still people are facing some like mental health, and then so somehow I'm also asking myself, how can this happen? It cannot
Mhm.
just be explained by political and depression. I think it must be something wrong with the society or how the
Mhm.
society functioned.
Yeah.
And of course, I also have some problem with this. Um, and I have also um, it just reminds me of one question. We live in the society, the modern society that's full of like processing food. Because like
Mhm.
I really love workout, but one it is I think it's like a really practical case. If when you mentioned your good time that the current period you feel that your energy you feel good, and in the in some like sports science, if you the more you eat the processed food, and then it can have some negative impact on your body. But for people who eat processed food, for example, like the fried chicken, French fries, and then it can give you a lot of energy where I feel really good when people somehow eat these type of we call junk food or high processed food. But
Mhm.
then how can you measure this? When people eat junk food, but then they feel good.
Mhm.
It's like really good time.
It is a good time in the moment, yes,
Yeah,
but
but
not for
they
the
can
long
cause
term.
some negative impact, right?
Yes, if you measure across the 5 life areas, you can tell whether those areas affect each other. So let's take your example and eat fried chicken. It gives you a good time eating it, and you do more of it. And then you slowly see how your satisfaction with yourself is dropping. So if your ambition is to maximize your total life good time, then you need to get up all areas, not just the taste of the food. So
Mm,
if you double down on just I want to have a good, I want to have delicious food, and you drop your physical health, you drop your sleep, which is, by the way, sleep is an activity. And if you
mm,
measure your sleep, how satisfied you are with your sleep, and you're not satisfied with your sleep, you're not attracted to the sleep, and it makes 8 hours of your day, you're dropping the rest of your life. So it's a balance. How can I, and my approach is always what supports me long term the most. So eating healthy food, basically,
mm,
that would lift up all the areas.
mm,
However, if healthy food is not delicious, my question is how can I make the healthy food delicious?
mm,
Not the other way around. How can I eat something delicious and hope it has a positive impact on my life? No, how can I eat something that's helping me? Because at the end of the day, food is supply, is energy supply. And first and foremost, food should support this purpose to supply your energy system. And our modern food is designed around to just make it taste good while not delivering the energy it's promising. So, for example, if you bite into an apple, it tastes sweet. If it tastes sweeter, that means there is more energy in it. You get more boosts. But nowadays, if you eat something that has basically zero energy, you just put it in your body like a regular McDonald's bread, then it is empty. It's empty calories. You have calories, but your body can't utilize on it. But it tastes good. So your mind is even confused about the energy you just put in it. You might get triggered and said, oh, it tastes so good, it got to be a lot of energy. And then eventually there's not a lot of energy. So after a while, you will hungry again because your body signals you, I need to eat more of it. So you eat more of it. And this is a downward spiral. So food is a very important aspect of life, and not the only one, though. And to give another comment on if something is wrong with the society, I think what the society could benefit from strongly is changing the gear. Let's take China as an example. China had a famine. It was really hard for people to survive. So the previous generation, your grandparents, they know what it means to suffer. They had a really bad time. And they were motivated to get out of the bad time. It wasn't necessarily the motivation to get to a good time. At firstly, as long as you have bad times in your life, you're intrinsically motivated to get out of the bad times. Imagine you're standing in front of a tiger. You're not thinking about where could I run to that it's beautiful, that I'm feeling comfortable. You're just thinking about how can I get away from that threat. So that's the first step. And the society and economy, sadly, is built around that motivation. How can we avoid a problem and getting out of it? So your parents or your grandparents' generation still knows what it means to suffer, and they say now it's a better life. It's not a good life, but it's an absence of suffer basically. But our generation says, okay, we don't have that pain. However, we don't have the joy neither, and we still are motivated by the idea to reduce pain. But we are not stupid. We can't be fooled. Psychologically, subconsciously, we know there is not a real pain. We don't really try to solve surviving. And yet we are presented and we've got sold the idea that our work is solving survival. So changing that mindset and says, let's acknowledge that we are not solving survival. We're at a point that's okay. So what can we do? What can we look forward to that motivates us to walk towards, that gives us a good time, not just avoiding a bad time? And if you have that mindset shift and building a society around this idea and saying, how can we create a good time? So how can I bring more joy rather than less pain? That would change the gear. That would change the society over time.
mm. Um, okay. When we just take China as a case, it just reminds me that, for the parents' generation or even grandparents' generation, they have to solve their, living problems, like, or just the basic living conditions. But even though nowadays, I would say, many Chinese families, they don't have problem to suffer poverty, but the families, all generations, they are unhappy. They compare with each other, they just unhappy. And then, so I totally agree with you that I think it's something of the men's side, but at the other hand, I was just like attachment theory just came up with me. Like for example, like some dysfunctional family and the kids or the next generation from somehow dysfunctional family, they can kind of like repeat their parents' problems. I know they create a new family or in a new relationship, and then they still repeat the certain what we call mistakes or drama life. And so I was thinking, for people who suffer from this attachment theory or this kind of drama, how can your theory or how can your app help with this situation?
First and foremost, it creates awareness. I
Mm,
mean, if you do the same thing over and over again, you're
yeah.
repeating the issues, and you keep doing this as long as you're not aware of what you're doing or why you're doing what you're doing. So I give you a concrete example when it comes to some habits that are not serving you, but you keep doing it. So understanding first and foremost what is my goal is very, very helpful. If my goal is to make money, then I can orientate on everything that gives me money, and I keep
Mm,
doing what does it. But if I'm understanding I never wanted to have money. I always wanted to have a good time. And I wanted to have some other things that helped me to get a good time. In that moment, you become flexible with the things you're doing, as I said before. So getting clarity about I want to maximize my good times is very, very, very helpful. I'm aware of I want to maximize my good times. And everything I'm doing is supposed to help me. So in that moment, you start asking yourself, wait a second, the things I'm doing here, is it actually giving me a good time? If not, why am I doing this? Because I want to have a good time. So, okay, but if it doesn't give me a good time, I'm open to change it. I'm open to change. And with the app, we clarify this. We give a dashboard that shows clearly how good are your times when you do
mm,
what you do. So I can give the example of my manager who recently shared it in the podcast. So I can just present it again. This was a good example. He went to a family dinner, and usually family dinners are supposed to bring a good time. Yeah, you go there not because you're forced. You go there because it's supposed to give you a good time. And he realized afterwards when he made this assessment that he didn't really enjoy being there. It was okay, but it was not like I want to go there. And the second day they had again this family dinner, like it's tradition every day. And he noticed it again. He logged it again and saw the trend. I don't really like going there. It's not giving me a good time, even though my purpose was to get a good time out of it. And that moment he saw crystal clear, well, if it's not giving me a good time, but the point of doing this was giving me a good time, then let me optimize on that. Let me go not that often. Or can I spice up the meetings, the family dinners, that they are nicer, that it gives me a better time to go there? So it gives clarity and brings you the awareness. And with the awareness, you can break patterns, you can change things. Without awareness, that's very difficult.
okay. Um, That's a very insightful and practical talk. I would say that, I mean, my understanding is that the first is all about humans' man side, like their, ancient Greek philosophy, Socrates, that you should know yourself. So, um, I think like
Yeah.
we already talked for 1 hour, and I like to have more conversation with you, based on good time and how to
Mhm.
maximize good times. But
Yeah.
I think some of our audience might have questions.
Mhm.
So who wants to be first? Oh, you want to have questions?
Yeah, actually, when I was invited by Mr. Cheng, um, I I read the topic first in Chinese. So I thought it was about happiness. So And here you say it has nothing to do with happiness. Happiness is emotion, and good or bad time is something else. Frankly, I don't quite get it because
Hmm.
for me, good or bad times is like what is like for example, Charles Dickens has put in Great Expectations, or another book, I forgot. We're in the best of times, we're in the worst of times. It's the say the narrative is what serves as a country, a period of time, a nation, or a piece of history, not individual. So yeah, so what is the difference? And actually, I prepared something, but based on happiness. So I don't think it's
You can try.
necessary to share. Yeah, here my
If
intake.
you if you want to try the happiness aspect, I'm happy to discuss this as well. There are crossovers, obviously. Happiness is part of a good time. So would you like to share that, or shall I firstly answer the aspect of collective well-being over individual well-being?
Okay, I can share them. Well, as a language learner, I've thought about happiness for a long time, and it comes to me like three intakes in three languages. Like
Mhm.
first, in Spanish they don't say like I am happy,
Mhm.
but rather they say I am in a happy state. That is to
Mhm.
say, at this moment. I'm in a happy state, and
Mhm.
I don't know what's going to happen in the next state.
Mhm.
Maybe this state is will be
Mhm.
destructed at the
Mhm.
next moment.
Mhm.
So this state is always fragile. It's
Yes.
like, yeah, so you are never a happy person. You are just at the moment at
Mhm.
this in a happy mindset. And
Yes,
it's fragile.
not just
Yeah.
mindset. Your energy is flowing. Happiness is also means energy
Well,
is flowing.
it's not literal translation. It's just like in Spanish they say
Yes.
estoy feliz.
Mhm.
Of course, you can say soy feliz, but it's a question of ser and estar. It's something. Say happiness or being happy is not an attribution.
Mhm.
It's something
You
uh
are in.
static.
Yes.
It's not stable. It changes all the time.
Yes. I think that's a
Um,
very realistic point of view, because we often confuse our economy, for example, promises us if you're not happy, you need this, and then you are. So it gives us an outlook or a promise of eternity of happiness, eternal happiness, and that's just not aligned with how our world works, where time is changing. Time is always changing and nothing is stable. The only thing that's stable is change. So saying I'm in a happy state in that very moment does make sense to say instead of saying I am happy, because if you're not am, you're experiencing something. It's an emotion you experience in that very moment. And that can be the next moment different again.
Okay, and my next intake is in my own language, Chinese. In Chinese, usually happiness is translated into or 幸福 or 快乐. But there's another word that Chinese people tend to forget. That is 快活. We all know it means happiness, but we don't say, we don't, it just does not come to our mind.
Mhm.
Literally, 快活 means to live faster. So why has live faster anything to do with being happy?
Mhm.
I figured it out like when I was living in Spain. It means when you stop asking yourself, am I happy?
Mhm.
Because I used to ask myself this question all the time when I was in China. And then it comes to there was one moment when I was living in Spain for like in my fourth year, I realized that I haven't asked myself this question, am I happy? For a quite long time. And it's the moment when I realized that I am rather say in a state of happiness. So that is to say, when you forget to ask yourself if you're happy or not, you are happy. Or like Spanish people say, estás feliz. And so when referring to the Chinese word, when you live faster, when you live, like when you forget about the time, when you forget what you are chasing, where you're looking after, or when you forget the meaning of life, when you forget to be in a pursuit of happiness, you're happy. But once you remember it, you're not happy anymore. The state of being happy is broken.
What is your question?
No question. That was just an intake. So
Yeah,
shared, yeah, actually two. And if well, I'll make it short. The third intake is from Danish language, because the translation of happy is hygge, and hygge is a very, say, the most famous Spanish Danish word. But Danish people would tell you hygge does not mean happy. It means, well, in Chinese, we have a word 小确幸. It's like small and certain happiness. It's rather, like in Danish, they say, like, of course, happy would be translated into hygge, like Danish people say, it's just like, I'm happy to meet you, nice to meet you. But they would always say, they would also say, like, for example, when you're in cold winter and you're in front of the furnace and you see the fire, you see what's sparkling in the furnace, and you feel the warmth, that is hygge. That is not happiness, but that is hygge. Or when you feel the caress of your love, it's not happiness. It's nothing sensual, but it's like small and detailed happiness. That's my third intake. Well, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that sharing.
Thank you for Mr. Din. And we have two audience in the room platform, Tintin and May. Do you have any question or comments about today's topic, the science of good time? Tintin and May, do you have any question or comments?
Well, I think it's very meaningful and valuable for present me. I mean, yeah. Okay. It's fine with voice, right? I mean, you can hear me, right?
I can
Yeah,
hear
we
you.
can hear you. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, because I am in a gap here, and I actually, because I didn't succeed in apply for PhD last year, and so I continue this year, and I am under some kind of pressure, and I have to sit in my room almost a whole day and for writing a proposal and to think of a lot of things and to worry about whether if it will fail again. So much anxiety, and so the one inspiration I take from this lecture is that flow, energy flow, because I feel that some kind of losing such flowing, because I am silent and I'm kept in a room, and so maybe I can do something and to feel the energy flow. And but I also have a question, because I study history, and I also have some learning experience with psychological knowledge, and I also have continued, or I also have done like meditation for almost 6 months. But after that, I quit because I felt sometimes I just you know I felt it's not effective.
Mhm.
I have to say, because
Yes.
yeah, because if I look sometimes I feel like, yes, I can um yeah, I can feel the peaceful mind. I can know more about myself, and to analyze myself like from a psychological or psychoanalytical way. But it doesn't help to my
Mhm.
presence. And yeah, so my understanding to this problem, to this issue, is that maybe healing, or like the purely believing in um you know uh the psychological statement uh is problematic, because sometimes we have to look into the so social or cultural structures and happened around us, because we live in a historical period, because we
Mhm.
live in a generation. And so I think probably the another way to let the energy flow goes out is that maybe uh, we can find some values in how to like how to break such solid, such stagnant structure, like and so that we can empower our lives to be some kind of meaningful if we are pursuing it. Yeah, and that's my thought.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You didn't concretely ask a question, but if I'm responding or if I'm mirroring what you're going through it right now, and I think your question is more around how could you lose your blockages and start getting more energy so that you're successful. And I'm repeating basically the concept of what the science of good times I could distill from it is that eventually start firstly not moving out of fear. So if you're applying because you're afraid of if you don't do it, then you have a problem, you're already blocking yourself. And you're literally if you live in scarcity, there are some researchers around. Um, if you live in scarcity, which is nothing else but you're in a situation where you say, I'm not having enough, so I need to do something, even your IQ drops by 15 points. So your ability to make smart, wise, long-term decisions is drastically compromised. So for the sake of your success, it is already helpful to give yourself some rest. And to illustrate that even more clearly, tension. So basically, you're tensioned, you're stressed, you're tensioned. So physically, if you have a tension and you don't need to have the tension, you need to release the tension. Yeah. So in order to release the tension, there are multiple ways to do that. On the one hand, you can meditate, which is at one point quite helpful. But on the other hand, you're also having energy inside of you, and sitting there still and not moving is not doing you any favor. What is doing you more favor is doing something that the energy is flowing towards something, not mobilizing your energy out of fear that you're changing something, but instead looking for where do I want it to flow? And when I'm there, would I be satisfied being there? So don't think short term, like if I have this application, then I'm fine. No, then you still need to go to a job, and in the job you still need to do something. And if you say if I'm or yeah, then firstly the PhD, you need to hand in papers, and after you graduate, you need to deliver the work projects. So it's always the same. When I'm there, then think about it. When I'm in the position, would I like to keep flowing? Would I like to do something more? And thinking in that long term helps you to find your direction more clearly rather than let me just apply for the next university that I'm in it. It shifts to the direction to after I graduated and after I'm successful in my job, which direction would fascinate me? And that is a topic your energy wants to flow towards, not away from. You want to flow towards. And eventually your application will be also very, very powerful because you're saying, I'm in it for getting this result. And I'm I'm convinced that I'm gonna get there. So whether with your university or with another one, but the reason I chose your university is because it aligns with my values and it brings the biggest chances to get there. So instead of having a generic application no one is going to read and says that sounds like anyone's, because most people just apply out of scarcity, your application stands out because it's something they didn't hear before. That's something, wow, that's a purpose. And that even triggers their curiosity to say, I want to be part of going in that direction. So that's the one thing. And in order to release this tension for yourself, it is helpful to move also your body. So get yourself out of a dark room where energy is literally blocked with not sunlight, where your body is not moving, where your whole organism doesn't function ideally, where you're alone, and put yourself out in the sunlight where you can move your body, where you can breathe and air is flowing, and where you can meet other people you can interact with and can exchange thoughts and say, I'm trying to find something. Just as what you did just right now, very courageous that you're saying you're currently in a gap year and you had the struggle and you're trying to get out of it. This transparency is phenomenal and it's very inspirational. And therefore, talking with people outside and saying, hey, can you help me with that? Could be brainstorm. And this is super helpful. Ideally, you have a coach, but if you don't have that, people are always willing to help. And eventually, you get input, you're moving, you get support, your body is flowing again, and you can think clearly. Sitting through the night in your room is not doing you any favor. You're sabotaging yourself with that, actually. So give yourself the allowance to feel good.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Yeah, they are very good suggestions.
I hope it helps.
So, any other question from the audience? If there's no other questions, maybe I would like to share my feelings. Actually, Chris, I really feel you that what you said and then the energy flow and then think what you really need, what can really make you your life happy or like the long-term life goal, not just the get a position because I want to be in certain blah blah blah. Actually it took me very, very long time. I mean, kind of to realize this, like in the past years, I was consider myself, as a loser in this academic system because I extend my PhD study. I just don't, I just didn't enjoy it anymore because I was always situate myself in the certain judgment that because I didn't publish anything and the other professors, they don't like me just because I'm not academic enough because I just don't publish anything. That is basically how people judge others in this academic, which I think is quite toxic, particularly in China. And like when you are surrounded by this judgment or the whole environment was like this, I think I was, I'm kind of sensitive and I just really feel bad on myself. So it took me like quite, I think almost 1 year just to realize I just fuck it, I don't care it anymore. It's just the being in the academic, published again and again, just be like a paper machine is not something I want. What because I started this topic because I want to answer some questions about China. I'm curious, how China become like this. It's just not because I want to create more paper, and then working in academia and then to be a professor, it's kind of like you play a game and then you make your postdoc and then you get a position and then after that you become an assistant professor, associate professor, and then is that what I really want to know? And then my answer is that no, I don't really want this because I'm not really good at this. So after I realized that okay, I just finished my PhD. I just write this book and answer my question that is, and then I want to do something that I really like. For example, like the podcast. I think that's I can really devote my energy in. Just not just publish paper, and I can start some calisthenics for type of like a fitness. So that's what that is basically my experience to pursuing good life. I mean, for example, if this so in this week I finish some like 3 or 4 times calisthenics training, I will feel good. And if I can write something, I feel good. But if I don't write enough, okay, I just tell myself it is fine. It is fine. You just have to push yourself. That is basically my experience. Like you just don't mix yourself with certain judgment. Don't judge yourself by how other people judge yourself, even though other people say that hey, you are such a loser in this system, or you spend 5 years, you get nothing. Oh, I think you must love yourself first. You understand yourself, that's what you really need, and then everything is, how other people judge yourself is it's nothing about yourself,
Yeah.
just back it up.
Yeah. Yes,
Mm.
correct. What I heard though is that you did a lot of things. You don't want to do a lot of things.
Yeah,
You,
true.
you, you you can
No
change the
making
camera again that I can see her. Um, if
you want to see me?
Yeah, of course, when I'm talking to you, I don't
Okay,
need to
yeah,
see
okay,
myself.
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
just okay,
Okay.
talking, please. Thank you.
So
Yeah,
you have a lot of points where you say, I don't want those things anymore. That's a beginning to have a
yeah,
clarity what you don't want. So it doesn't make sense to go more in that direction. What is helping at that point is then shifting the gear to what do I want? What is worth walking towards? Otherwise, you just keep driving crazy and your system is not working. So very, very helpful if you pursuing anything or you're in the middle of something like your PhD, whatever it is, and you feel your motivation is draining. It is always a good time investment and energy investment to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what am I heading towards? And if this is what I'm heading towards not attractive, then your job is to find something that's attractive. When I started my bachelor's, it was in Germany, it was a really high demand of what I had to study. And I thought, like, this is so much, I would never get that done. I wasn't good in school before. And eventually, I found out a system that helped me to study successfully. But one thing I did, I spent roughly 50% of my time watching YouTube videos that around the topic until I found that one piece that I'm saying, this is interesting. Ah, that's why. So now I had my why. And suddenly I wanted to understand what I study. Suddenly I had no resistance to sit down and get that done and get it into my mind. I wanted to understand it. So instead of learning things by heart and forcing it myself and forgetting it after the exam again, I still have it on my mind until today because it was linked to my interest and I knew why I'm doing it. And the interesting thing is the moment I was done also, so I said, this is the chapter I need to study, this is how I need to go. The moment I was done, I was done. I spent my free time in peace. I was done. It was fine. I didn't have to study more and think like I never have enough. It was clearly I need to get to that goal. I want to get to that goal and I achieved that goal. So now it's spare time. So for you, yeah, look for the things. Really, I can just share from my own experience. It's worth pausing and not just continuing because someone else has said tells you or you're in the middle of something. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Where am I heading with that? And as long as I don't know where I'm heading towards, I'm not moving a bit. That doesn't make sense.
yeah. For me, like my experience last year, talking with these Chinese colleagues, and then I realized that even people they do something, they achieved a certain goal or milestone, like finish their PhD in 3 or 4 years, which is very quick, and then get a position, they are not happy at all because
Uh-huh.
they don't know what they want. They
Yes.
they just stay in the system and then do other people tell what they should do, and then they don't think for themselves. That makes them like very unhappy and then even get depressed. I mean, I think I was
Yes.
also a bit depressed, but then I was just asking myself, like, do I really want life like this? And my answer
Mhm.
is no. And
Mhm.
then I paused like half a year, and then I was thinking, I think that's maybe as necessary, even though I didn't do much things, but I just slowly get my energy back, and then I start calisthenics in spring, and then I
Mhm.
feel quite good, and then I just tell
Yes.
myself, do something, do something that will make you feel good. Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, that's basically, just do something and feel good yourself. Just don't do just don't follow others.
Yeah, you need to know your own direction. You're an
Yeah.
individual,
Yeah.
and they don't
It's
know
your
better.
own journey.
Your own journey. That's why we also created the Good Time app in a way that we don't orientate on social assumptions. We don't orientate on what society tells you need to have to be successful or fulfilled. We literally just assess your own life, and you know whether your life is working for you or it is not working for you. No one can tell you how your life should work. But the foundational principles are the same. Walk towards things, not away from things. Set a goal and are attracted by it. If you're not attracted by it, look for the things that give you an attraction. And if you push too much at a certain point, when you run and mobilize, you have energy. At one point, it becomes unattractive because you're getting tired. At that moment, you need to rest. And if you keep pushing in that moment, the only reason to do that is because you're out of fear. So you push yourself, you get a burnout. So, yeah, walk towards something and it becomes unattractive, rest, and then keep walking towards something again.
Yeah, that's quite practical. It's also my own experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe
And
that.
you have some questions?
Yeah, I think today's discussion is very good, very meaningful. And I have probably last question to Chris. For your research of good time, I think you have interviewed many people with cultural diversity.
Mhm.
You have lived in China. I believe you have interviewed many Chinese people. So, what are the similarities and difference between Chinese people and the non-Chinese people? So, do you have any experience to share? And
In what terms?
for your research of good time, have you found anything universal? Okay, because you have interviewed so many people with tremendous cultural diversity.
Mhm. So could you specify in what terms do you mean are they different or special around Chinese people?
I mean, during your research of good time, of course, this is a big question. This is about the
Mhm.
cultural difference. I want to focus on good time, like
Mhm.
their attitude toward good time, their understanding about good time. Have you
Mhm.
found any difference or similarities between Chinese people and, for example, German people?
Mhm. The difference is actually not too much. Very at the core, it's the same thing again. You can keep turning to you that I can see you. Um, the difference is actually not too much. It's at the core the very same thing. People are pursuing something out of scarcity because they believe they need to do it. So in Germany, there are certain success definitions like having a house, having a car, etc. Having a good job title. Well, that's the same in China, having a good job title. However, in China, it's a little bit more extreme when it comes to social acknowledgement from the family. Germany people usually subconsciously they still try to impress their fathers and their mothers, mostly not aware of it. It's deep programming. However, the 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 strong driver of I need to do this to please my family is much less in Germany than in China. In China is very strong motivation. I need to do this, that I finally get the acknowledgement from my mother or my dad. So it's both scarcity thinking, I need to do something. Otherwise, I want to avoid the consequences if I don't do. However, it is the social connection is stronger in China. Yes. Another thing that Germans and Chinese, if we take a look at those two cultures, differentiate each other from, is the approach. Chinese are more open to make mistakes and try things out, and then they forget about it quite fast and they just keep going for the next thing. The Germans are highly anxious when it comes to this. Wouldn't admit it though. But if you are aiming for perfectionism and don't dare to present something that is not perfect yet, it's usually coming out of a fear of being judged and doing a mistake. I mean, it transformed Germany into a high precision culture where solutions are usually thought through and quite functional. However, not usually practical too much because it's not based on reality. It's more like I create a system that needs to function perfect, and then I present it. And so highly driven by mistake avoidance. And that's why, yeah, it's different approaches, but at the end of the day, the same problem. People are driven by avoiding a problem rather than looking towards a joy. What I found though, which I didn't conduct interviews, but personal impression when I was 2019 in China, one thing that stood out to me immediately in Shanghai is a completely different sense of optimism. I wouldn't subscribe to that nowadays anymore, still quite a bit, but 2019 compared to Germany, Chinese had something to walk towards. They had something to look ahead to. They said, this is great what we're building here. It's exciting. While in Germany, it reached already the plateau and said, let's just try not to lose it. We reach something, let's just stabilize everything, that nothing is changing, which is suicide, or is honestly is societal suicide, because everything is changing. It's nature. Attempting to make it static, you can just lose. It's not holding. And that's where Germany has so many rules, and the whole society is built on what you cannot do rather than what you want to go for. I think China still has goals. Germany has milestone objectives to avoid problems. And that's what kills the society.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you more because I have also lived in both China and Germany. Now I have lived in Germany for more than 14 years. So I basically agree with your observation. I think that for Chinese, the family is very important, and the Chinese people are willing to sacrifice for their family members. This is true. And for Germans, it's also true that, according to my observation, probably most of Germans are perfectionists, right? I'm not sure if it's a correct word.
Yes, yes,
So you agree?
yes, I do.
Yeah. That's good because quality is very important for jammers. This is good. Sometimes, yeah, if you focus on quality, maybe you have to make some sacrifice for time, for speed, something or flexibility, whatever. I think today we have discussed more than 1 hour. Maybe it's time to close our conversation. But before we close, I would like to ask Chris to make some final remarks about your research or any expectation from us, from the audience.
So, of course, I don't have any expectation from the audience, but I have a wish for the audience that every one of you is prioritizing their pursuit of maximizing good times. So set it to a goal and saying, firstly, I believe that I deserve having maximized good times. I'm deserving to have a good life. And that's an inherent right I got with my birth. When I was born as a being, as an animal in this world, I have the right that my energy is flowing. And if I don't do that, I'm acting against nature. So Marcus Aurelius was already writing 2000 years ago that it is I can't quote it 100%, but basically acting against nature is not done well. No one has the right to prohibit you to act according and aligned with nature. So I want to encourage everyone in the audience to believe you have the right to have the best life ever. No one can argue against this. No one has the right to force you and saying block your energy. This is their perspective. That's their life approach. And the question is, how well does it work for them? If it's not working well for them, then you have to find your own way. And if you do this, then I can just recommend trying the Good Time app. It's goodtime.app to measure your current life satisfaction, how well your good times are running, where your energy is flowing, where it's blocked, and do this systematically. All of you are academics, so you know what it means to measure and improve rather than guessing. And when it comes to improving your life satisfaction, we can approach it the same way. Measure it and optimize it algorithmically, smartly and systematically throughout your lifetime. That's what I would like to give further. Additionally, as I know this is a very short podcast and session, I know I couldn't say everything, and there's a lot of questions open, and it's a long journey to transform. So I invite every listener to, on the one hand, go to goodtime.app and make this assessment and navigate. On the other hand, I'm also inviting you warmly to get on my website. It's chrisw.co, chrisw.co, and you can find some resources there or sign up to the newsletter. I am starting to share some valuable insights on how you can maximize your good time systematically. So I hope to see you there.
Yeah, actually today I have subscribed to your newsletter. So
nice.
Hopefully I will receive some news from you. And I have one good news for you. Around 10 persons have expressed their willingness to be interviewed by you. And after this conversation, I will send the email list to you. Around 10 persons, they are willing to do the interview.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And yeah, thank you, because we are all contributors to the science of good times and can change our societies.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for joining this podcast. It's actually a really fruitful discussion, and I learned a lot. So, I'm one of your test user of this Good Time app, and then I would say that it's actually very amazing and practical app. So, if any of you in as the audience or in the friends in the WeChat stream. So if you have interest in Good Time app, and then I highly recommend you to contact Chris. Maybe just to try, just to look what is Good Time. So it definitely it's a definitely good app. And Chris is currently conducting an interview for his PhD research. So if you have interest to be part of the interviewee to join this research, and then welcome you to contact Chris or subscribe his newsletter, or you can directly contact us, leave your email address, and then we'll forward your contact to Chris.
Yeah, if you have no contact information of Chris, I think you can just Google. You can Google his name.
Yeah, and definitely, and then after that we will upload this video to our YouTube channel or maybe Bilibili, and then we will highlight the address of Chris web page. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chris, and it's a good time today. It's a good time.
Feel the answer flow, yeah.
Yeah. It's not happiness. It's a good time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Tomorrow it's a holiday.
It's really nice that we had this discussion, and then there's a very nice view outside the window and enjoy the sunset.
Yeah. Enjoy your evening and enjoy your sunset. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, and we stay in touch.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice evening.
You too.